the Middle East faces a delicate shift as Syria's new president warns Israel's strikes could strain US alliances and regional stability. At the UN, Ahmed Al-Sharaa called for accountability and reaffirmed Syria's commitment to the 1974 Golan Heights disengagement. Israel confirmed security talks with Damascus on demilitarization and Druze protection, short of a formal peace treaty. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Syria restored diplomatic ties, signaling a new chapter in regional cooperation and international engagement. Syrian President Ahmed Al-Sharaa is warning that Israel's military actions in the region could erode America's standing and push some of its allies to consider alternatives. He made the remarks to CBS's Margaret Brennan during an interview in Damascus, ahead of his debut speech at the United Nations General Assembly.
Bombing the presidential palace amounts to nothing less than a declaration of war on Syria. What if the backyard of the White House was bombed? The United States would wage war against whoever targeted the White House backyard for the next 20 years. There are borders and international standards that must be respected. There are international laws, the United Nations, and the Security Council that we turn to protect those standards. Otherwise, the world would fall into massive chaos.
Al-Sharaa, who took power after ousting Bashar al-Assad late last year, said Israel's strike on Hamas leaders in Qatar and its attack near Syria's presidential palace put both US interests and regional alliances at risk. Syria did not retaliate after the strikes, as the United States moved quickly to de-escalate tensions through envoy Tom Barrack. Al-Sharaa became the first Syrian head of state to speak before the assembly in nearly 6 decades. While addressing the UN on September 24th, he described the end of Assad's rule as an opportunity for peace and stability, while cautioning that Israeli policies threaten to undermine those prospects.
Syria has transformed from an exporter of crisis to an opportunity for peace. I guarantee to bring to justice and hold everyone accountable who is responsible for the bloodshed. In this context, Israeli strikes and attacks against my country continue, contradicting the international support for Syria and threatening new crises. In the face of this aggression, Syria is committed to dialogue, and we're committed to the Disengagement of Forces Agreement of 1974. We call on the international community to stand beside us in the face of these attacks.
He said Syria remains committed to the 1974 disengagement agreement brokered after the Yom Kippur War and called for international support in upholding it. Israeli officials, while declining to respond directly, confirmed that negotiations with Syria are continuing. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed this week that negotiations with Syria are underway, describing them as a process tied directly to Israel's security needs. He said the talks hinge on the demilitarization of southwestern Syria and on guaranteeing protection for the Druze community, which has long-standing ties to Israel.
Negotiations are underway with Syria. Their conclusion involves ensuring Israel's interests, which include, among other things, the demilitarization of southwestern Syria and maintaining the safety and security of the Druze in Syria. I'll tell you what we're discussing. We're discussing with Syria something that wasn't even imaginable before our great victory over Hezbollah. We're discussing a security arrangement in which they demilitarize southwest Syria, and we ensure the security of our Druze allies in Jabal al-Druze.
The statement came as speculation grew over whether Jerusalem might be prepared to surrender the buffer zone it established in Syrian territory after the fall of Bashar al-Assad. Netanyahu dismissed such reports, calling the idea a joke. He emphasized that the focus is on securing arrangements that were unimaginable before Israel's recent military gains over Hezbollah, particularly a framework that limits Syrian military presence near Israel's border. In New York, Syrian President Ahmed Al-Sharaa rejected suggestions that Damascus might join the Abraham Accords, saying his government's priority is a return to the 1974 disengagement agreement in the Golan Heights. Diplomats say the negotiations, accelerated under US pressure, aim to reduce tensions but stop short of a peace treaty. Despite recent progress, Netanyahu acknowledged that a final agreement with Damascus remains a distant prospect. Ukraine and Syria have formally restored diplomatic relations following a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Syrian Interim President Ahmed Al-Sharaa on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. The agreement was signed by Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha and Syrian Foreign Minister Asad al-Shaibani in the presence of both leaders. Ukraine had severed ties with Syria in 2022 after Damascus recognized the independence of the Russian-backed breakaway regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. Following the fall of the Assad regime in December 2024, Kyiv established contact with Syria's new authorities, paving the way for a normalization of relations. Zelensky said on X that the signing of the communiqué marks an important step and that Ukraine is ready to support the Syrian people on their path to stability. He also noted that discussions with Al-Sharaa addressed promising sectors for cooperation, shared security concerns, and the importance of countering regional threats. Zelensky emphasized that relations between the two countries would be built on mutual respect and trust. Al-Sharaa, in his first participation at the UN General Assembly at the presidential level in nearly 60 years, outlined reform measures since taking power, including the creation of new institutions, plans for elections, and initiatives to attract foreign investment. His appearance follows Syria's long absence from the annual summit, which Damascus boycotted after the 1967 Arab-Israeli War and the occupation of the Golan Heights. The restoration of diplomatic ties signals a new chapter for Syria's engagement with the international community, while allowing Ukraine and Syria to reopen channels for cooperation in governance, security, and economic development.